Hello, I'm Sam Gluckstein, head of the United Kingdom's National Preventive Mechanism. I'd like to welcome you to your new role scrutinising places of deprivation of liberty in the UK. You might be an inspector going into prisons or police custody. You might be a monitor, an independent custody visitor, a member of the Independent Monitoring Board, or you might be a scrutineer of the forensic health estate. Whatever you're doing and wherever you're working, you form part of the National Preventive Mechanism. Over 3,500 people applying the OPCAT mandate to prevent ill treatment and torture in places of deprivation of liberty. What does that mean, and how does your role fit into this national and international framework of the subject of this training package, where we'll explore what the Convention Against Torture is, the optional protocol, and your role as part of the NPM over the next 20 minutes or so. I'd like to warmly welcome you to your role and look forward to working with you soon. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I'll introduce you to the NPM central team. We'll discuss what the optional protocol against torture is, what the NPM is, and how your role contributes to it. And we'll send you away with some resources to learn more. As I mentioned, my name's Sam Gluckstein, and I lead a team that coordinates and supports the fulfillment of OPCAT in the United Kingdom. Why was OPCAT created, and what is it? The United Nations Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman, or Degrading Treatment or Punishment, UNCAT for short, prohibits torture and ill treatment in all forms. Unlike most other rights, the international prohibition of torture is absolute. There are no circumstances where torture or ill treatment can be justified. The optional protocol to the Convention Against Torture was created in recognition that people deprived of their liberty are particularly at risk of ill treatment because they are not visible to the public. OPCAT is therefore an international agreement establishing measures to prevent torture and ill treatment occurring in places of deprivation of liberty. It creates mechanisms that open these places to independent, regular scrutiny and creates an accountability net to identify, report, and prevent practices that might amount to ill treatment and recommends changes to stop them. In ratifying OPCAT, states agreed to establish a national preventive mechanism to fulfill this scrutiny role and agree to the jurisdiction of the United Nations Subcommittee on the Prevention of Torture. Torture is broadly defined as the subjection of a person to severe physical or mental suffering. That's not limited to extreme interrogation tactics. It's also engaged in conditions and treatment that you might come across in your day-to-day work. Excessive time in cells or indoors, excessive time without meaningful human contact, poor building fabric, such as lack of light, clean air, adequate space, temperature, or dirty, unhygienic conditions, insufficient access to nutritious food or drinking water, or lack of access to healthcare. These are examples where ill treatment might be engaged and relevant to our scrutiny work. We know these factors contribute to harm based on the work of inspectors, monitors, and custody visitors, and your findings. The United Nations Subcommittee on the Prevention of Torture is a UN body that periodically visits states who have ratified the optional protocol. Their role is to advise and assist NPMs on protecting detainees from torture and ill treatment, make recommendations to states to strengthen capacity and mandates of NPMs, and maintain contact with NPMs, offering training and assistance, and their last visit to the United Kingdom in 2019. What is the National Preventive Mechanism? NPMs are human rights-based torture prevention bodies. In the UK, 21 bodies are the NPM, coordinated by a central team and led by a steering group. NPMs prevent ill treatment by proactively visiting places of deprivation of liberty to strengthen protections against ill treatment, by making recommendations to relevant authorities, and submitting proposals and observations on policy and legislation. The collective NPM lens can be an additional lever of influence to effect improvements in treatment and conditions. This timeline takes you through some of our history. The UK ratified OPCAT in 2006 and designated its NPM in 2009. We then added 3 additional members. We recognised that devolution had an impact on detention and established subgroups in Scotland and Northern Ireland. We were visited by the SPT in 2019, and that brings us to today. The types of detention engaged as examples are prisons, young offender institutes, police custody, escort and court custody, detention under the Terrorism Act, children in secure accommodation, detention under mental health law, deprivation of liberty and other safeguards in health and social care, immigration detention, military detention, and customs custody facilities. And these are the bodies that make up the NPM. More than 3,500 people fulfill the NPM mandate, and now including you in your new role as a member of a scrutineer of one of these organisations. And this slide shows you the NPM bodies by their primary setting of scrutiny. And your work is the NPM. By virtue of working for an NPM body, you are part of the mechanism that prevents torture and ill treatment in UK detention settings. Your work directly supports the fulfilment of OPCAT. Your findings directly feed into national and international human rights reporting. And the UK NPM Central Team provides advice and guidance and training, human rights expertise, and relevant research and training support. Here's a list of all 21 of the organisations that make up the NPM and their senior authorised representative. That might be the Chief Inspector or the Chief Executive, or the individual that leads the strand of work for which the NPM makes up their organisation. We'll now watch a brief video with some of those names discussing what the NPM is and why it matters.
The United Kingdom National Preventive Mechanism is a group of 21 independent bodies that inspect and monitor places of detention.
The NPM is incredibly important because people who are deprived of their liberty by the state are in a uniquely vulnerable position.
The NPM provides an external oversight to places of detention, also preventing ill treatment of people and promoting a culture of human rights.
It's about protecting the rights of prisoners, ensuring that standards are maintained and that prisoners can live in dignity.
The NPM matters because as a wealthy nation and as a nation that is hot on human rights, we absolutely need to have an oversight body that looks at everything and says, are we doing our best?
The United Kingdom National Preventive Mechanism matters because it provides vital scrutiny to places of detention.
Because it takes you beyond what the standards of the service prescribes, because it's an institution that's independent and is able to visit unannounced with unfettered access to any places where persons are deprived of their liberty.
Because it shines a light on places of detention. It ensures that bodies are brought together who have skills and expertise in inspecting and visiting places of detention.
And more importantly, the NPM can be a greater than the sum of its parts. So while all the 21 members are brilliant at actually managing their own job, coming together, we are a more powerful voice.
I'd describe the work of the NPM as collaborative. It really does bring together a group of organisations that have human rights as their mandate, and it provides us a common framework to work from.
For us, it provides us a platform to come together with other members to share best practice, to share intelligence and some of the work we are doing in order to promote human rights in detained services.
NPMs are vital in the global fight against torture because much of that work is done at international level, but NPMs provide the connective tissue between monitoring at international level and domestic action.
We've also established some guiding principles. We're detainee focused. Treatment and conditions of detainees is at the core of our work. Independence is essential from government and the services we monitor. Human rights, we're a human rights organisation and human rights experts. And collaboration between NPM bodies and with civil society, external partners, generating best practice. We also have some strategic objectives. 1. Support NPM members in delivering their responsibilities under OPCAT. 2. Undertake collective work and take joint action to prevent ill treatment of detained people in the UK. 3. Promote awareness and understanding of OPCAT principles and the work of the UK NPM. And 4. Work with international mechanisms and organisations with a mandate to prevent ill treatment of detained people. Your role in the NPM. This slide shows how the state is held to account with your findings. So, for example, scrutiny body staff and volunteers conduct inspections, visits and thematic reviews and report on findings. My team and subgroups review findings to identify, report on and influence policy on systemic issues. International treaty bodies report on issues to the state and conduct visits to make recommendations. And we all inform each other with the aim of holding the state to account. Findings from NPM inspectors and monitors lead to thematic work on identified systemic issues, such as our 2023-2024 task and finish groups. Our current focus is menopause in detention, deaths in custody, defining detention, and mental health, and there'll be further material on that in the future. We'll now take you through a few examples of how your findings practically influence the work of the NPM and the treatment and conditions of people held in detention settings. NPM members record observations of their scrutiny visits, discuss these with colleagues and the institution being examined. And this informs reporting, which holds the establishment and the UK publicly accountable to implement recommendations and improve treatment and conditions, and highlights good practice. The NPM team reads these reports, follows response from relevant authorities, and refers to international law and guidance to write the UK NPM annual report. The NPM annual report highlights national issues in the conditions and treatment of detainees and points out where authorities have not fulfilled recommendations or met international obligations. The NPM team contacts authorities and alerts international treaty bodies, raising pre-agreed obligations and levers to improve outcomes for those deprived of their liberty. An example in Scotland. In 2015, His Majesty's Inspectorate of Prisons, Scotland, conducted an inspection at HMP YOI Cornton Vale and found aspects of the conditions to be unacceptable. In 2018 and in 2019, relevant UK NPM bodies briefed the Committee for the Prevention of Torture on major concerns, including those at HMP Cornton Vale. In October 18 and October 19, the CPT visits the UK, including Cornton Vale, and raises serious concerns about the treatment of women prisoners held in segregation. The NPM commissioned a follow-up report on progress since those visits and found not much had changed. The HMIPS commissioned a review of segregation in Scottish prisons, and ultimately, HMP YOI Cornton Vale was permanently closed in 2023, and a new facility was opened. This shows that multiple levers at local, national, and international level being pulled, which ultimately improves conditions for the treatment of people held in places of deprivation of liberty. Next. In October, the Kent Coast Independent Monitoring Board finds squalid conditions at Manston Short-Term Holding Facility. That same month, relevant UK NPM bodies briefed the Council of Europe's Committee for the Prevention of Torture on major concerns, including at Manston. At the end of November, a delegation from the CPT carries out a rapid reaction visit to Manston. The UK NPM is able to inform the CPT report, attend briefings with the Home Office, and help shape the findings in the report. The CPT report and state response is published, identifying concerns about Manston and remedial action taken by the state, which includes the creation of a new residential holding room with improved amenities in which individuals may be detained for up to 96 hours, and the state no longer using cell vans to hold agitated individuals. Next, request culture and the role of independent custody visitors. ICVs recognise and document request culture in 2019 in their police custody monitoring visits. The NPM and the Independent Custody Visiting Association briefed the UN SPT on key findings in police custody prior to a UK country visit, which included a request culture. In September 2019, the delegation from the SPT carried out a UK visit. The SPT report was published with the state response, which identified concerns about request culture and remedial action taken by the state. This shows ICV findings being taken to international level and placed at the desk of senior decision makers in government. These are some of the key human rights standards that inform our work, and I'll pause here Additional training on these standards will be available shortly. And here's some further reading. Our most recent annual report, some guidance manuals on what prevention really means in practice and how to apply it in your work, and our most recent submission at international level to the UN ICCPR, which demonstrates how we take findings from local work to international levels. And there's more on the NPM website. Thank you for the important work that you do, and I'm really looking forward to working closely with you. Do feel free to visit the National Preventive Mechanism website for latest news and information. Sign up for our monthly NPM newsletter on our website to keep up to date with latest news and resources. And feel free to contact us at uknpm@hmiprisons.gov.uk. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to working with you soon.